believe there will be any golf today.
You did
Or
play
for
it.
quite a while.
Good morning. We'll call to order the February 1st meeting of the Saline County Commission. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Vidrickson?
Here.
Commissioner Weiss?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Now if we'll all stand for a flag salute, remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, Brad will instruct our virtual attendees how to Zoom the meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brad.
If folks that are attached to the Zoom meeting would like to speak, they're looking for the raise hand function. That lets the host know that you would like to speak in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. We now move into our citizens' input, where citizens may speak on county government, usually limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to visit? Norm? Come on. Well, come please. Well, that's, yeah, come on, Norm. You're up.
Norman Salina. If it's on the agenda, we're not allowed to speak to it in a public forum. So when do we get to speak to this issue? We should be participating in our government discussions and operations. Thanks.
Thank you. Please come forward. State your name and address, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Terry Berger, 5024 West Shipton Road, for a long time. And I'm here today as a result of a speech or a presentation I experienced yesterday from Dr. Alyssa Strider, I believe it is, at K-State Salina. Technology and aerospace is what it's called now. And what I'd like to ask you to consider doing is this. I want to plant a seed in hopes that this year it'll sprout, you'll cultivate it, and it'll grow. How many of you have ever gone to Menards? Been to Menards? Well, you know where you turn to go into Menards, right? That's where the farm credit is. And okay, if you go straight, I believe that becomes a county road. And that road, gentlemen, is the gateway to two of our most important schools for advanced training in our community. Kansas State Salina Aerospace and Technology, and our vocational school. Well, that stretch of road, if you'll stand on the top of Magnolia and look west, is the worst piece of roadway in the damn county. Excuse me, that's French. And what I would like you to consider is this. Every parent that brings a student to these two universities for furthering their education and spending a lot of money in our community, a professional pilot course will cost every bit as much as a medical doctor, as medical school. So from that driveway west to the city limits, there's a city limits sign right where the big ditch is. I invite you to go out there and drive that stretch of road. It's terrible. It's hard surfaced, thank you, because we don't need any of that white rock on it, but it is egged out, and it needs to be either scarified and relayed or just tore out and put in, because that's our gateway to one of the most important resources we have, Vision One, all the businesses at the airport. That's the main artery into that. And so what I'd like to ask you to do as a citizen of this community is consider your road and bridge people being encouraged to go out there, examine that, and see what could be done to improve it to make it a professional gateway into our two resources and many others out there. Okay?
Thank you.
you,
Terry, if I
Terry.
might, it's not, were you going to speak?
No, yeah, I will, but we usually don't respond back, but I think this does deserve a response and some information. Go ahead.
And that was going to be my thought. We don't normally respond. We, let everybody have their say. The road lawsuit that was settled with the city, I think, what, a year and a half or 2 years ago, that, I believe, is a city street now.
Well, that's what
That is the city street. That is no longer a county road. And it was a county road, but that was part of the lawsuit settlement that we went through with the city of Saline, and that was a road that they had to annex and take in, and part of the trade-off when we settled all that road dispute.
Well, their sign is still up indicating that the city limits start at the west end, right where the big ditch is, which was why I'm here, because it led me to believe that that roadway east from the big ditch is county roadway. But if it's not, Bob, then I know another commission I'll go visit.
Good boy. We encourage you to do just that.
All right.
I mean, I'll ask our city administrator. I'm sure that was one of the roads that we settled. Is that correct?
Yes, so it is not annexed, but the city assumed maintenance of it. And the city is aware, Dr. Starkey from K-State, we have had this conversation several times. The city is aware of the need to repair that. The biggest issue is actually the bridge over that ditch. That's a large expense, but I know the city is going through and examining some of their finances right now as a result of the federal funding and so forth. And so they are certainly aware of it, and I certainly agree with the public comments, as I know Dr. Starkey does, about the need to beautify and enhance that stretch of road. But yes, that piece of road, while it is still out in the county, is a city maintenance responsibility per the terms of that settlement.
Well, I will go along with Mr. Berger and say that whatever this commission can do to encourage our city commission to act, we need to do that.
Well, why don't you do like we do out in the country, Bob? And that is, if you share a fence, I'll take it halfway, and then you come the other direction and rebuild it, and that would stimulate them to get going, because there's two bridges there. The bridge on the farthest west end, I think that's pretty good shape, but there's a little under the road whistle, I call it, type bridge just west of Menard's turnoff. And that needs to be probably cleaned up like you do out in the county, put a new box under it. That's about all it amounts to. But anyway, thank you, gentlemen.
You're
I made my point, and I appreciate hearing the response back. And Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Berger. Anyone else in the public or online that would like to speak? If not, we'll move into our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of approval of payroll as presented, approval of tax adjustments as presented, and approval of the public forum agenda as presented. Any commissioners have comments or?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second the motion.
We moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried 4-0. We now move into our action items. Item number 1.
RFA 107-22, pretrial program space remodel with Annie Grievous, Community Corrections Director.
Good morning.
Morning, Annie.
Commissioners, how are you?
Good.
Good. Are you good?
Good.
I'm here this morning to request to expend $30,000 out of our reimbursement budget. As you might remember, that budget is quite healthy on the adult side because it stems from 1980s of collecting fines and fees, not fines, fees that clients receive from us, and many of them do reimburse us. So it just keeps accumulating every year. We show DOC how we spend it or what we intend to do with it, because there are many years where we've had to tap into it significantly. We are remodeling the building and getting some additional space due to the pretrial expansion. Thank you, Ottawa and Saline County Commissioners. And due to that space and the remodeling, I'm asking that we expend $30,000 out of that line item to pay for a portion of the remodeling. The remodeling is going to be about $82,000 just to do the remodeling, and that's with a contractor's estimate. It looks like it's going to fall just a little short of that. And then with the monthly rental costs with the additional space, it would go up about $1,300 if I didn't expend that $30,000. So we pay rent currently of $11,325 a month. So, and that would go until '23. The increase would be up to $12,813 through July '23. If we're allowed to pay the $30,000, it'll reduce that additional rent of $1,300 to $800. Looking out long-term, as I look at my months left and as I'm leaving, I think it's just really good planning and goal setting to pay a portion of this so that the rent does not continue to be a large burden. We're always going to have probably expansion there. It's a great space, but if I can get that paid off at a smaller rate, that would be what I would like to do. It went in front of our advisory board, and they did approve that. So I'm requesting your support and approval to expend that, and it would go directly to Mike Bostetter, who is the landlord. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Annie?
Yes, I would like to just ask, and I apologize, I missed the last meeting.
Yes, you did,
I did.
Commissioner,
I'm
but that's
fired?
fine.
I'm fired?
No, no, you can't be fired.
Quick question here, have we looked at the county, because I look at this as a one-time expense. If you took care of the total cost of renovation here, would there be any increase in your monthly rent at all?
Only for the space.
Okay, so even though you've already got that space, it's not behind what you already have back there?
It's, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you remember the
Yes.
space where all the, goes into the restrooms and
Yeah.
where our storage is, it is right into that. They've opened up, you're welcome to come by and look at it. We looked at it at the board meeting. No, we didn't, I made that up. We've opened up a big area and made it look consistent with the rest of the space, and it's an office and 2 cubicle areas, and it's really going to be cool. So it is attached, and it will increase our rent slightly, but the huge amount is at $82,000. Originally, I don't know if this is where you're going, but originally I thought about paying just it all off, and I looked at that, and it is doable, and it certainly would help long-term planning. I just didn't know, honestly, if everyone would support $82,000.
Well, where I'm kind of going with this is that I don't know, I've talked to the discussion with the commission about this at all, but we have this ARPA funds that's available for some of this stuff, and I would like to bring it back to the table, since this is a one-time shot thing.
Yes.
If we couldn't utilize some of the ARPA funds to expand on this here in the next year to help pay for all of that at
And
one time.
That would be terrific, and I appreciate that. County Administrator Phil did mention that and said I should apply for that. So I already have the $30,000, thinking that I was going to come back and ask. I have a couple of asks, partnering with law enforcement, as I've kind of given you the story about the co-responders that we're hopefully going to partner with the city. County does one co-responder. And so I'm getting another little time to educate, but that's another ask that fits great into that criminal justice. But Phil mentioned it, and I would definitely ask for the $30,000. I'm not opposed to asking to the 82 if you're going to approve $82,000 today and spend it. I know.
Well, I'm just,
That's where I'm
I
going
just
with
wanted to
this.
bring that, because
I
after I was
appreciate
reading this
that.
and I,
You're absolutely right.
okay. But anyway,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, how much money is in this reimbursement dollar fund?
Over $500,000. I do
What-
not have the exact amount.
Why wouldn't we just go ahead and pay the whole thing then at once instead of upping the rent and those types of things?
It would up the rent no matter what, a little bit, because we have more space, but it would be very slightly. Like I said, Commissioner, I don't not support that. I originally wanted to do that, and I kind of backed off, only because here's how I really feel. I'm leaving in the end of July or in July, and for me to expend that, although we have it, we easily have it, and we continue to bring in dollars every month as reimbursements. So I just wondered if that was a good decision for the director who's leaving in a few months to make that decision. So I went with 30.
Can the state come in and reclaim any of that money ever?
No, as long as we every year show how we would expend it, and we'll just show them how we spent it, they cannot take it. It can be utilized for, I mean, I always go over with county administrator, I would always go over with the board, and I would come to you. But as long as it's approved and I've gone through all the cycles, that is dollars they cannot tell us how to spend or where to put it. When sheriff, and doesn't matter, was running, I spent $5,000 for information, presentations, and other things for that sheriff. We were doing a whole thing.
I'm not in favor of doing this. With that type of money available in our reimbursement fund, I would think we would go ahead and pay for it. But I mean, I don't know what you have planned for the rest of your reimbursement dollars, but to me, it makes no sense. If you had $50,000 or $100,000 in that fund and we're going to spend 82 and take it down to 18, I'd say, well, maybe
Yeah.
we should think about it, because you do need the rainy day funds.
Right.
But to leave 470,000 in there and borrow 50 doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not opposed to what you're suggesting, I'll tell you that.
I would support that.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Vidrickson, but the recommendation that you're bringing to us, I'm sure some thought went into that.
It did, but I want to, and you're right, and I appreciate you saying this, Commissioner. It did. I started with the 82. I really wanted to do it. I did not want to leave adding such a huge cost, because already paying $11,000 for monthly rent is high. And so I looked at the 82. Again, it was a personal decision. I backed off, a little emotion in it, a little bit of trying to be constructive with that. The 82 is doable, and it will not hurt us. I just didn't know if, honestly, people would think, yeah, she's headed out and she spent $82,000. But it's
average-
smart. I'm not saying it's not effective and smart. It's good planning.
On an average year, what does the growth of your reimbursement fund look like? What do you bring in?
We probably bring in 50 or 60, and we probably expend maybe that amount, if that. It's literally for rainy days, or if someone leaves. Our state funds and federal funds do not allow for payout, so example would be myself leaving, so much sick leave, so much vacation saved, they're going to write me a check. So we have it for that. I've had people leave our place that we owed them $25,000 because they never left, which wasn't healthy, but they never left. But those are kind of things that are put out of it. Also, additional rent or additional building space that wasn't projected in the previous year for budget. We will put the full rent in state and federal fund budgets to cover. We should not have to take out of the reimbursement for any kind of rent costs.
Do you have anything else on your radar this year that will impact that reimbursement, other than retirements?
Yeah. No. No, we don't, Commissioner. We have purchased the vehicles, we've spent all those kind of things. We're in a pretty solid spot. The only thing we probably will take out of reimbursement is a small amount for cubicle additions in that new space, and we're probably talking 5,000, maybe 7.
This says a couple of things to me also. Number one is that we are not going to leave that building.
Right.
And number two, pretrial is here to stay.
Correct. Both very good statements. You're right. And I want to also say, one of the things that County Administrator reminded me was that at some point I could come to Ottawa and Saline and asked for a small percentage of that additional rent to pretrial. I see your face changed a little bit, but it was just another option was that because the rent went up, we're not leaving that building. Pretrial's only going to expand, and now we're in Ottawa County, and they were very gracious, and they're very generous to us and always willing to expand programs in their area. We didn't think that was overwhelming to ask for 5% or whatever of the rent. I didn't do it this year. I don't have it really on my radar to do. Next year, I'll be gone then, so.
I want to go back to the rent for just a second. $11,000 currently, it's $11,325 is the current rent, and the $12,813 is would also have in there the amount of money that we are, this other $52,000. If we don't do that, what is that number?
You know, I didn't get that. I can get that today from Mike Bostetter. That's not a problem.
Because reality, all we want to pay for in rent is the space that we're using.
Correct,
I mean, that's my thought.
correct. I agree.
I'm also curious, normally, I thought that most rentals, I mean, the landlord paid for the expansion, and then that went into the rent.
Right, and that's an option too. We could not pay for a dime of it, but our rent would go up so high, and looking out, you know, a few years, 3 years, I just felt like it was a little bit too high for us to plan on state dollars to cover it. Right now, all the rent comes from our grants. The grants I write cover the rent, and that's great. I don't know what next year's going to look like. I know they're trying to flat fund us this year, but I know the governor's got some other dollars out there for other pieces of funding. So until I get through the session, I don't know what it's going to look like. But my concern was, should DOC funding stay flat? I did not want to put community corrections in a situation 3 years out.
Well, it's philosophical on my part that to spend money on someone else's building and that money's gone.
Yep.
That's why I'm kind of thinking the other way around, that the landlord pay for and then when we leave, he owns it, because this way we're paying for it and he's still going to own it when we leave.
Right.
Just philosophical on my part.
That's another side
look
of
at
it
that
too,
way.
and that's how we did when we moved in. Everything we've done, in fact, we've done 2 remodels since then because we outgrew it very quickly. He paid for it and it went to additional rent. I guess my thought was just to cut back on that monthly, always hitting rent, and I know how state funding goes year to year. You're never guaranteed anything, and for 10 years, we've had flat funding. And even though it's set up that the better you do with your successes of clients, the more money you get, it doesn't happen. We're at 83% success rate, which is amazing for a offender population, and we've not gotten a dime extra for 10 years. So I mean, practicality, my being there 35 years and looking out, trying to plan it, that's what I chose. But I welcome whatever, and whatever you say, we'll do.
My guess is, what is the interest rate we're getting on that money? And so if you go get a loan, you're probably paying higher an interest rate than what you're getting for the $500,000. I'm guessing.
There's no guess to that answer.
And as a landlord, I would assume, a successful landlord, that he has set up his rental schedule that will reimburse any monies that he's putting into that in short order, and probably make him better money than what
Right.
he'd be getting at the bank too. So it's either pay it up front or just borrowing that money and paying it back through rent. But
Well, I'd go back, I'd like the situation where we'd look at it and just pay it off. That's my,
Are you opposed to me paying it off and then requesting those dollars through ARPA, whether you grant them or not? That's an option, and we would just reimburse that line item.
and that'd be my suggestion.
Well, my question to that is, does this have to be acted on today? When does this
No.
ARPA funding have to be settled? When can we get an answer on that?
I'm sorry, Phil. This does not have to be probably answered until we move in, and I say we're about 2.5, 3 weeks out from moving into that space. So we really have about that amount of time, and I'm happy to come back or let you or us have some discussion. I can't answer the ARPA question.
I'll just tell you up front, this RFA as it's presented today, I will vote no. So if the other commissioners, they can still say, we're going to vote for this and it's 3-1, so be it. But as it's presented today, I'm a no guy. If you come back with a little different plan, probably would change my mind. But and one thing I want to make the public aware of, this money is not Saline County money.
No.
But we are the responsible
You're the
body
host.
to
You're the host county.
approve that you
Right.
spend the dollars in such a fashion.
Right, and it's all grant money. There is nothing that's not a grant dollar in here except for the requests I've made to Saline and Ottawa County. Those are the exceptions that aren't actual grant dollars, but they are requests to help fund the programming. And everything I get from Saline and Ottawa County right now funds salary and benefits of existing and expended persons in our building. It does not pay rent, does not pay for services, those kind of things. We've always just kept it at that.
I guess I have a couple questions for the county administrator to possibly answer. First of all, can we amend an RFA as it's presented and change the verbiage or the numbers as a body today?
Yes.
And it seems like, Annie, that you would embrace the fact that we go ahead and vote for you to expend the 82,000.
I would.
And then take
yes.
care of this.
Yes.
And back to the county administrator, we can give her approval to do that, and at a later date, see if there's ARPA funds that could reimburse that back to the county or back
Correct.
to her.
Yes.
So it could all happen today, and it could happen.
Well,
Everybody wants it to happen.
my only question, and this is back to Annie, her advisory board has already approved it at the 30 level. So if you all amend it to 82, does it then need to go back to your advisory board? That's my only question on that, just
I
process.
think that it didn't even require advisory board. We always try to keep them in that. What I would do is, if approved today, and I don't believe the board, there was one question about Dane Hansen grants being used for this, and it's not something Dane Hansen would even consider. We don't even do Dane Hansen grants. We don't fit into our population. But I would notify them by email that the commission, who always has the right to override or rule differently than the board or myself, chose to do the 82,000. And I would send that email out this morning.
This monthly rent, 11,325 versus 12,813, the difference there, let's see, about $1,600 there, or I mean, yeah, $1,650, whatever it is. That came from the landlord?
Yes.
I would still like to know exactly what the rent will be if he's not having to put $50,000.
Well, the rent would be, if he's not putting 30 in, it'll be that 12. No, it'll be $800 added to the 11,300. But I did not ask him about what it would be at us covering the entire 82,000. It would be significantly reduced because I think that that space is only costing us 300 and something, but I don't want you to.
That's the number I'm after, because if you're
Right.
only renting another 150 square feet, I don't know what the number is, but it sure seems like a pretty hefty increase.
I can, if you, and this, I don't even know, I don't know how you want to do this, but if you wanted to table it, I'm happy to go get a hold of him. He can put that together fairly quickly, but I'm happy to come back next week, too, with all that information.
I'll leave that up to my fellow commissioners. They may be wanting to just clear the table now, I don't know.
As far as amending an RFA, normally there's like a sixth thing that says or other action taken by the commissioners. So, I mean, we could if we wanted to.
Yep.
Well, before we take any action or inaction, I would invite the public, if they have any comments to this.
Norman and Salina, to Robert's point, to Monty's point about county money. I know where there's a county that got $30 million in that pilot fund, and yet they borrow money to buy maintainers.
All right. Any other comments, Ann?
No.
All right. Comments or actions by the commission?
This doesn't bother me at all to table it a week, to get that final figure that you're looking for, so.
And that is the only way you're going to get my yes vote.
Yeah, I mean, if
That doesn't matter because it could still be 3-1.
I understand that, but this shouldn't be a contentious issue. This should be a 4-0 or a 5-0 vote, and so if we just back it off a week and it gets to be a 5-0 vote and everybody's happy, I would rather see that.
I'm fine with that, and we will go back, I'll do it now, go back and redo the RFA, and we'll put in the 82. I'll get all the information, and would you prefer that I show you several options, or are you really interested in the 82? Because I just want to make sure that,
I think you've got 3 people here that want to do the 82.
Okay.
And I think that Commissioner Vidrickson wants some clarity on what the rent will be.
On the level
Okay.
of rent. And I mean, to Jim's point, alternatives for action, I think it probably wouldn't hurt if you threw in a couple of alternatives for us to at least look at.
okay, so you would like some different things than like 30 or 82?
Personally, I like to look at more than just one, here it is, take it or leave it.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I'll start with 30,
Probably
do
will
a
be the
middle,
other
and-
way around. I mean, like, to what Commissioner Shadwick said, we'll get the numbers and we'll make it pretty clear, but right now, I feel like I'm the one that's making this harder than it should be, but
Well, I'm not offended or hurt. I'm happy to come back. I like seeing you guys. I will do 30, and then maybe a 50 or 60, and then 82, and I'll show you the cost of the rent just alone and the cost of how that looks on adding the rent.
one thing about it, when we get that different rent figure, we're going to figure out what $50,000 is worth.
Yeah.
Okay, now, don't break my heart here.
Does this actually need a table?
It's probably cleaner for the minutes
Okay.
to actually take an action and table it and then take it off the table next Tuesday.
Well, I move that we table RFA 107-22 pretrial program space remodel till next week.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we table RFA 107-22. All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, Annie, we will see you next
Thank
week.
you. I'll be back, and I appreciate your considerations, because thinking this through gives government people I feel happy today. I'm leaving with a good note, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2.
RFA 108-22, Saline County Logo and Branding Standards with Hannah Stambaugh, Deputy County Administrator.
Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brad is going to get a little PowerPoint set up for me. So just a little bit of history that kind of came about this. Back in the fall, executive staff started talking about how it is that we could better communicate county services to our citizens. And one of the ideas that our county treasurer had was to actually put a flyer in the tax statements, trying to figure out, at least providing information. They've got the new No Wait Inside program. We have several other different programs that can be accessed online. Just trying to put information out to our citizens just as far as what things that they can do. So in amongst that, we started looking at our current logo, and as you can see up on the screen, the one that's on the left-hand side is what we have currently. And so we connected our staff with a graphic designer that could really help make this flyer look very professional. But in that, really working with the existing logo kind of created some very large visual challenges. So we asked for them to kind of explore looking at a new visual for Saline County. And what was designed was the image that you see on the right-hand side, which is the sunflower with the three rivers. This was actually presented to several different staff, and just to look at it, obviously created a much bigger visual impact that they were looking for this particular flyer. So the flyer was really created in a unified effort between quite a few departments that had information on this. And then again, this flyer went out in the tax bill. So one of the things that came up in the commissioner's visioning session, one of the key focus areas was talked about service and infrastructure as refining the role of the county. And really a part of that is identity and branding, and what is that cohesive visual image for Saline County. So this request for action is more than just the consideration of adding an additional logo. It is also implementing standards with colors and fonts, and the implementation of a branding standards is certainly something that's very advisable to make sure that everything stays consistent, and that unity is there, that everybody's using the same thing, using the same colors, and we don't get hundreds of different versions of what a logo should look like. I think it's really important to emphasize that any implementation or movement to utilizing this new or this additional logo is not something that happens overnight. Really, on average, any type of major branding changes for an organization takes anywhere from 6 to 7 years. Just because, I mean, obviously we've had the starburst or sunburst type logo for many years. And that's not something that's going to go away. It will still be here. It's just the addition of the one with the three rivers and the sunflower that would be added into our little toolbox of images. So, Brad, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. I think the other key thing to point out is that the Sheriff's Office, Health Department, Expo Center, Emergency Management, they have their own logos as well, and they will continue to utilize those. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. And then the last slide, I believe. So these are just different variations of the logo, the sunburst logo that we have seen used throughout the county over the last couple of years. And then I believe the last slide. There we go. So your alternatives for action today are to adopt this additional logo and then also approve the branding standards that was approved or that was provided along with it, or do not. Like I said, there's really the implementation of this is something that was going to take several years. So there's really no immediate budget impact. Any transition that we have with buying new vehicles, we always have to buy new decals to put on them. So there's still that expense, whether it's the old logo or this additional one. Business cards, letterheads, all that kind of stuff, it's going to take several years for any type of true transition over to fully this additional logo. One of the key things in the branding standards is making sure that this particular image is kept in its original form. As I showed the previous slide, had several different variations of the starburst, and that's what creates issues with figuring out which one is the correct one to use, which one's not the correct one to use. Implementing branding standards allows to make sure that our colors are consistent, fonts are consistent, and the image is consistent across everything, and really just to create that cohesive visual identity. I am certainly open to any questions, comments, and conversations as it relates to this.
Well, I guess I see that you request action. I think what the action is being requested is forgiveness, not permission. It seems to me that this logo has already been put in place. I see it all over letterheads and such that we're using now. So I understand it was built for a flyer for the, and people said, well, that really looks great. Let's stick it on ours, and it's already happened. So I think we're a little late into the game, but I'll let the other commissioners visit.
Agreed. The cart's before the horse here. For us to back up and say no at this point would be a mistake. I think we need, it's bright, cheery, colorful. I like it. To back up and say no at this point is probably the wrong thing to do. And I think we should just move forward and go ahead.
Let's go.
Yes.
To your point, Mr. Chair, point well taken. We did review, I think what's important, as Hannah pointed out, is not just a JPEG, but the standards guide as well. Because we did look at, through the county policies, through the manager's manual, and there's really nothing in place in terms of rules around the sunburst. And so having that going forward with the branding guide will help avoid this sort of cart before the horse thing in the future. So I think that's just.
And I agree with you there, Phil, in terms of policy. And I think what probably has I don't want to say ruffled our feathers, but we weren't invited to the game thing, was that we were invited about 3 years ago, and we declined to go that route. And I think that's why we probably are, the perception from this chair anyway, and I think a couple of others anyway, that we weren't invited to do this. And but the last time we were, and when we didn't approve it, then kind of circled around us and did it anyway. Which, like I said, I like it. It's okay. It's fine.
I agree. I think it's a fresh, modern, easy to look at logo, and it makes sense with the three rivers and the sunflower. I'm totally on board with the concept. So I don't see any need to.
Probably something that needs to be done again in a few years as technology evolves and, things move along, a different scope of things, the same as the city's logo. We won't, this will be the last time we deal with it, I think. We'll be down the river.
And comments that have come from the public in the past is the expense of logo changing, and this will be done by attrition as people run out of letterheads, as people buy a new vehicle that needs a logo put on it at that point. So actually there isn't a cost to this that you wouldn't have otherwise. So
That is correct.
And one of the things is, like, from the very beginning of when this come out, I loved it. I mean, it's been a very good deal. One of the things I notice on a lot of pamphlets that's put out and some other deal, it's like in your sheet that you have here, the shading that shows up on this, if there was any way to see a little more shading on a lot of this, because I'm sitting here, I know it's a long ways away, but from here to here, it looks like one big yellow and one big orange behind it. Where, I mean, I love the way that the shading is. You can tell that this is a leaf. And I know when we print those out, if that could be enhanced a little bit, that would be just more beautification that's taken place, where instead of just a big yellow sunflower with no petals showing.
Yeah, so the graphic designer actually has several, not really renditions of this, but it's very similar. And actually in the branding guide, there is a page that lists all the colors that are associated with it. So not only are there the primary colors, but then there's also secondary colors that are associated. And that's what can kind of go into that shading piece of it. So we do have, we have got obviously the black and white version piece of it. We also have a white version of it that can be used, so at least the image is consistent. But we would definitely want to try to keep the colors consistent. I appreciate your comment, and that's certainly something we can look at and talk to the graphic designer about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to beat this any further. I mean, we've already taken too much time on this, but my thought to your response, Phil, is should we make a policy on something like this? Should we put it in place? And that takes all the guesswork out of this thing somewhere down the line.
Well, that's what I think. By having the branding standards guide, you are essentially adopting a policy at that point. And so I would see putting this on the website, distributing it to employees in the same way that we do other policies, so that there's not a level of confusion.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion, or do you need public
Yeah, I
comment?
haven't got a public comment on this yet, so we'll go that way, and anyone in the public would like to comment?
Yeah, Norman Mann again. What I'm hearing, this is being rammed down you commissioners' throats. This should be spread out further for more choices, because DSNO went through this issue here several years ago, and they let the membership, they let the people choose. And that is government. There's other logos that out there that would represent the county. A county worker could be on this logo. A Native American could be on this logo. I bet you I can talk to one commissioner and he'd like to see a buffalo on it. That would represent Saline County. Some wildlife. This futuristic logos, that doesn't represent the present county.
Thank you, Norman.
I do not feel that this is being rammed down my throat as one, but Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's any other public here, so I move we adopt the logo and approve the associated branding standards as presented by staff in RFA 10822.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 108-22 Saline County logo and branding standards. Any other comments, questions? One question before we vote, County Administrator. The other logos that are used by other departments, do they fall under this branding guideline, or would they be exempt from that? I mean, if they want to change or do something different?
That's an excellent question. So I know the health department in particular, we've had some conversations with them about their logo. I do not see the sheriff's star changing, or the community corrections, they use the state seal. But I think probably Expo and health department are probably the two that might potentially move to something more in line with this. And so we have been having some conversations with the health department. There is some interest in them altering what they have. And, you know, we can, now that we have assuming the motion passes, we have a guide, we would direct them to do something consistent with that and then bring it back.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we have the motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, we'll move on to item number 3.
Amendment 1 to Resolution 21-2348, statewide litigation regarding the opioid epidemic, with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Morning, Philip.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. So in December, the Commission passed Resolution 21-2348 to join the statewide litigation regarding the opioid epidemic. They snuck in an additional whereas clause on us in the state resolution that we did not pick up. And so once we submitted our resolution to the Attorney General's office, they said, oh, you're missing this certification that you've spent at least $500 on opioid-related costs. And so this is just to clean that up. The amendment just adds that one additional clause to the resolution that you already passed, and we will send it back to the AG's office just so they understand that we have appropriately dotted i's and crossed t's, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'd entertain action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt amendment number 1 to resolution number 21-2348.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt amendment number 1 to resolution 21-2348, statewide litigation regarding the opioid epidemic. I'm sorry. Wow. I got my pandemics and my epidemics and all this going on. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried 4-0. All right, we'll move into informational items. Item number 1.
I would just want to say, yes, my job is a little harder saying some of those words altogether than you think.
It's going to be a long year, folks.
Department of Senior Services update with Rosie Walter, Director.
Good morning, Rosie.
Good morning, Commissioners. This update for the Senior Center covers October through December 2021. Accomplishments, building project, we have the drive-through and the building out for bid right now. We open those February 14th. Meals on Wheels America has awarded Senior Services $20,000 to expand and add partners to our existing program for Meals on Wheels and Healthcare for Pets program. We started a new grief support group called Lifeboat that the seniors actually started, and the purpose is talking and listening to each other with the intent of helping each other find a way out of grief and back into life. We're currently running our 2021 end of the year fundraiser. Right now we're at $29,667.29, and more donations are coming in now. Our theater project that our patrons started, our first presentation or production was held November 6th. It was standing room only. We actually had to shut the doors and lock them. Next time, we've learned, we'll sell tickets for different days. So we have another one coming up, I believe in April. So I'm sure it will also be sold out. We held a Veterans Day celebration on November 12th. We had approximately 150 veterans, senior veterans that came in and participated. We had multiple vendors that were there that had prizes and giveaways for our seniors, veterans. The kitchen staff director and myself, we went to Junction City for a training that the North Central Flint Hills Area on Aging presented. And the health department actually came in and did a flu shot clinic for our seniors. Plans, we're still working on the building project. We're putting together the window bids to put out for bid. We're planning on doing our volunteer appreciation dinner. As you know, April is Volunteer Appreciation Month, so we want to put out the dinner that we typically do. We have not had that for a couple years, so we are ready to do that. It is actually scheduled for April 29th, not May 27th. We have the ongoing need for volunteers always to help deliver Meals on Wheels or to help out within the building. So I will always ask for volunteer needs. Health fair, we're currently working on the health fair. I did call Jason, the health department, and asked him, about having the health fair and even the volunteer dinner, just to make sure that with the pandemic that it would be okay. And right now he believes that in April and May that we should be okay. We have an advisory council meeting scheduled for February 18th at noon at the Senior Center. Budget update from October to December 21, the expenses total $177,248.70, and for a year total, $694,377.84. Funding that we've brought in between sales, donations, and grants for the quarter is $172,768.60, and a year total is $763,705.59. Meals served, and I have a breakdown. For the quarter, $25,227. For a year end, $95,201. And I gave you a comparison and a cost per plate from 2020 to 21. We served $95,201 this year for a cost plate of $4.88. Last year, we served $78,390 with a cost of $4.74 per plate. This is a 21% increase in the served population that we've increased. And I'll take any questions.
And off the top of my head, I know that you wouldn't have it, but it's like, you wouldn't have any numbers from 2018 or 19.
Oh, I
would you?
have it all. I don't have it with
But
me. though.
okay, because I look at it as 2020 was one of those closed times and not a lot going on anyway, so I know that that figure is going to be lower anyway.
Yes.
So I just would like to know, but that's just one of those things. I just was wondering.
Well, I can definitely put that in for next time.
Okay, great, thanks.
Rosie, your lifeboat, do you have licensed professionals that attend that also, to
Well,
help or anything?
This is held by seniors, and we do actually have a social worker that comes in and sits through that meeting just to help should there be an issue. But part of the purpose that they wanted to start this group at the senior center is they do not want a facilitator. They want it to be continually just talking and working through their issues. When you have a facilitator, it kind of takes over, they felt.
Well, facilitator-wise, I would agree with you and them, but still, that professional being there, if
Yeah.
there is an occasion.
You definitely have to. I mean,
Also, on your flu shot clinic, I really commend you and the health department both for, collaborating on that. Was that well attended?
it was not as well attended, and I'll tell you why. Most seniors go to their doctor or they get that shot already.
The other
So-
thought that I would have on that is that the health department actually had their clinic clear back, at least a month and a half or so ahead of that. So most seniors are pretty
And that could
careful
be
about
too.
that. Going a step further, your funding and your expenses here, it looks to me, if I'm reading this right, and I'm not an accountant, but your expenses came in about $70,000 under the budget, under the funding?
Well, we had approximately 500 something in unexpended from what our actual funding was, our budget. But if you look, I didn't really put in what our total unexpended amount was, but our daily sales is $415,680.60. So if you take that and you minus out the actual funding, you'll see that.
Well, I'm looking at the funding. You've got the total of $763,000 that we were funded with, and the total expenses of $694,000, and that's $70,000. Is that not right?
Well, I didn't put in what the total funding was and then what the
Well, why not?
expenses were. I can. This has
Well,
been
if I'm going to look at numbers, I was getting ready to pat you on the back big time here.
I'll take that.
And coming in $70,000 under budget, and yet now you're telling me these numbers aren't right.
Well, we did good, I would tell you. But we did actually, our food cost was a lot more than what was even funded. We spent approximately, I'm going to say $90,000 over what we were actually funded. And we had to take that out of the donations to cover the food expenses. So
Well, that should come under expenses then, shouldn't it? I
wish I had it
accounting-wise.
in the budget. And, we do have more money for this next year in the budget that will help us, but the rising cost of food has really hurt us. And
That
if
should
you-
be shown to us then.
Okay, and I can change it so that it actually shows you what donation expenses are too. We've adjusted this and we've tried to come up with a a clear way to read this, and it'll probably be an ongoing process, but I can show in the future what donation expenses are as well.
Are food costs a commodity?
I mean, it's a contractual expense. No, the commodities
Okay, it's under
are-
contractual.
Right. The
So
commodities
you are showing that increase in the contractual expenses.
Right. Well, no, you don't see it all. You only see what was expended out of the budget. So hearing you, I will now show you what I've expended out of the donation count to cover what contractual did not. I only had $360,000 in the contractual, and I expended every penny and beyond
Okay.
that.
Well,
I had one last question regarding, I'm sorry, Jim.
No.
And that is the Meals on Wheels. The meals that go out from the kitchen, are they a commissary-type meal? I mean, are they prepared somewhere else and then reheated here and sent out? Or is that all from scratch at this kitchen?
Yeah, it's the same meal that we serve in our dining room. So first thing that they do is they package up all those Meals on Wheels, and it's packaged like a little TV dinner. It's hot and ready. We put it in hot packs. Volunteers come in, they pick up their route
So
and
it's
deliver.
prepared in our kitchen from
Correct.
start to finish? It
Correct.
doesn't come from Kansas City, Missouri, or
Oh, no, no.
Oklahoma City, or whatever?
No.
How often is the lifeboat? How often do they
They meet the first and the third Monday now of every month.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Any other questions of the commission?
Nope.
If not, thank you, Rosie, for the
Thank you.
report, and I will see you on the
18th?
18th.
All right, thank you.
All right. We'll go to item number 2.
Planning and zoning update with Tim Hamilton, Administrator.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Tim.
Last year was a pretty busy year for P&Z. So the planning board, we held 8 public hearings in 2021 to consider a number of items. We had 3 conditional use permit applications and 3 subdivision exceptions were heard, along with a text amendment establishing a process to allow the permanent structures for temporary fireworks sales. The commission, along with staff's assistance, has also continued the work of updating the county comprehensive plan. On a side note, for the environmental services division, we implemented GovBuilt last year, which has turned out to be a pretty good success to help with the permitting, and it's really helped with in terms of efficiency for the department. Under building permits, you can see we're pretty steady. Back in 2020, we had 69, and in 21, we had 73. And this is despite whatever, the cost of materials and all that's been going on for, the past 2 years. Breaking down the environmental health permits, the septic, well, and lagoon permits, Saline County had the lion's share of them at 94. You had Ottawa at 53 permits, Lincoln at 16, Ellsworth at 25. Real estate transactions and inspections were Saline County at 65, Ottawa at 16, Lincoln at 2, Ellsworth at 17. We had 43 contractor licenses for 2021 for all the counties serviced. The planning board, as far as plans for this year, we plan on continuing to use the Zoom function for our public participation at their meetings, and they started that last year and with really good success. This is also helpful for those commissioners that are unable to attend in person to ensure that, there's a quorum present. As far as the comprehensive plan, Staff continues to work with the commission on our plan update, which is anticipated to be completed this year. I would say that probably, I know last time I met with you, I said it was probably mid-year. It's probably going to be like the late third quarter, early fourth quarter of this year is when I should have something to you all for review. There are 2 planning board members that have expiring terms this year, and they may be reappointed in March. Staff has not, to my knowledge, has not received any confirmation on whether the 2 members wish to be reappointed or not. Again, the other thing that I wanted to mention as a sideline is GovBuilt we've started the process in P&Z of transferring, implementing GovBuilt on the P&Z side this year. So we're anticipating that'll go through the rest of the year to get that transition taken care of. Budget update, total revenue for 21 was $97,745 compared to $92,623 for 2020. I broke down the revenue categories for you as well. Building permits were $6,650. Septic, well, and lagoon permits at $55,100. And that's a breakdown by county. You can see Saline County, we had the lion's share of that at $26,900. Contractor licensing, we took in $6,500. Real estate transaction inspections, $26,800. Water testing, $1,800. Subdivision exception, those are applications that were received, were $500. Miscellaneous, $395. That includes the different Altosoid tablets and various other tests and permits that we have. So with that, it's going to be, it was a busy last year, and it's probably going to be busy this year too. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tim. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I have a question for you. Nothing to do with your update or your report, but it's been, what, 2 to 3 years since we partnered with, how many?
3 years.
3 years since we partnered with Dickinson County for your usages and leadership. And from where you stand, the shoes you're in, the seat you're in, how's that working out?
Working out really well for me and for hopefully for you guys.
I feel that way, but I still like to hear from you.
Sure.
I mean, I think we just don't hear much out of planning and zoning, so that's good.
Yeah.
And your reports are good and accurate, and I just wanted to know how you felt about sharing the job with the Dickinson County and so forth, and
It's good. It's been a good experience these past 3 years. I enjoy working with y'all.
You better order a new shirt with a different logo on it there, too.
You wear that shirt out first.
And it's brand
I want holes in the elbows
good one.
before.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Going on to item number 3.
County Administrator's update.
Morning, Commissioners. Number of items to go over with you today. To start with, Michelle Barkley, our emergency manager, has been approached by Kansas Wesleyan about teaching a class this fall. And I thought, well, gee, anything Michelle can do to impart her wisdom to future emergency managers is probably a great thing. But we do have a department head outside employment policy 40-12 or 40.12 that says that outside employment is supposed to be approved not only by the county administrator but also by the county commissioners. I felt like it would be a little bit of an overkill to do that as an RFA, so I'm just going to ask you to nod your heads that Michelle would be okay to teach a class, and I think we'll actually look at revising that policy to make that a little bit more streamlined. So
Well, the obvious question to me is, would that be during?
It will not be
work?
during work hours. It's an evening course. It's actually an online course, and so it's a great opportunity for her. But
And my head is nodding.
Yeah.
okay,
Good.
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you. Second item to mention to you. WIC dietitian in the health department. So currently we have two 24-hour-a-week positions over there, and they have had a great deal of difficulty filling those positions. Part-time employment is always difficult, so they have one person who's willing to go to 40 hours a week. It would actually slightly reduce the cost because paying for 40 instead of 48. But I did not want to give Jason the blessing without letting you all know that we intend to do that and giving you the opportunity to say, no, that's a horrible idea. So we'll move forward with that if I don't hear any objections. Study session on the 22nd. So we had talked to the commission toward the end of last year. We want to have another study session out at Road and Bridge like we did last year. Justin and Darren have some updates for us. Then when we established the schedule for this year for commission meetings, we set aside every 8th meeting as a dedicated study session. That one would be coming up on the 22nd. So we will plan to do that one out at Road and Bridge. The question came up about a Zoom availability out at Road and Bridge. After talking with Brad, they are really not set up out there to broadcast out. Certainly they can attend a Zoom meeting, but they can't sort of push it out to the internet. So that will not be Zoomed on the 22nd. Just wanted to let you all know that and let the public know that so folks can make plans accordingly. The 28th Judicial District Judicial Nominating Commission. The way that judges are selected is that there is this body that when there's a retirement, this body nominates folks to fill that vacancy, and that board, it's sometimes referred to as the lawyer, non-lawyer board because there are 2 attorneys and 2 lay people who sit on that board. The lay people are appointed by your commission. You did that in 2020. One of those folks has now resigned. And so we will be bringing, we actually have to do this very quickly, which is why I'm mentioning it today. So we will be doing a study session next Tuesday because we have to make an appointment on the 15th to get to the state on the 15th. So I wanted to mention it to you today, just so if you have anybody, if you talk to anybody, please encourage them to get an EOI on file. It's already online. If folks are interested in serving on the body that nominates judges for this district. So, except we'll be back with that on next Tuesday. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, the minutes that you approved this morning are correct in that...
We didn't approve any minutes this morning, did we?
I thought there were some on consent. There were some that were sent out yesterday. Oh, well, the minutes you're going to approve next Tuesday that got sent out yesterday will be correct. in that I mentioned when we were talking about the nomination for Skeeto, I had said something about there being an ex officio position, and I actually said that, and so the minutes are correct. Turns out I was not correct. Linda pointed out to me that we don't actually have an ex officio position on Skeeto. Customarily, we attend that, but just as a guest. And she actually gave me a list of several boards, and so I just thought, this is interesting. I'll just run through this for you. So the airport, that one we just attend as a guest. The chamber, that one, the chair is an ex officio, but with voting rights. Central Kansas Mental Health, that one we actually have a board member, a full board member appointment. Building Authority, of course, as you know, there are 3 board members. Senior Services Advisory, that one is ex officio. Tri-Rivers Fair Board, that one we just attend as a guest. The Health Department Advisory Committee, that one is ex officio. Skeeto, we just attend as a guest. Jail Reduction or Criminal Reduction Committee, that one is a board member, voting member. And the Community Corrections Board, we just attend as a guest. So I just thought that was interesting. Since she corrected me as I misspoke, I thought, just, there you go. So.
I like that report, and I'll just bring up something that that I've noticed in the last month or so with these different ones, where we're just an invited guest. Those organizations put out minutes every week or every month when they have their meeting. They put out the minutes of what happened at the previous meeting, so we are informed. I'm just curious if we need to spend our time, or if we should, go into those meetings of those ones that you just defined. Just throwing that out to the board. I mean, sometimes it's a little tough to go to some of these meetings and just sit there. You can't vote. It's an informational situation, but you get the information that you get the next week in the minutes. So what's?
Well, I would say that if you're attending one of these meetings as a guest, then you weigh the merit of your time and how it serves the county and make that decision. When we appointed names to boards, I didn't know we were appointing guests to boards. I appreciate you digging into that and bringing that to light, but I don't know, any discussion from other commissioners?
I agree with you. I think it's up to the individual and how it fits into their day. The other side is sometimes when you're there, if they have a question, how does the commission feel about the direction that we're going? It might be helpful to answer that, but that can be done in a variety of ways, an email, a phone call, or anything. So,
Well, I think we've added some clarity to what you expect of me to go to a meeting, or I expect of you to go to a meeting, and that kind of clarifies it. Those that go and vote, and I'll tell you, the helpful thing is if we really pay attention to what is on their agenda for that week, then there might be something that's of value to the county commission to go and listen to it, or potentially advise. But we do need to pay attention. That assigned person needs to pay attention to the organization's agenda for that month.
Phil, senior center is what now? That's you, Jim. That's you still?
Ex officio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ex officio.
Very good, thank you.
I would like a copy of that, if you could make it available for us.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
Anything else from the county administrator?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you for that report. We'll move on to item number 4.
Commissioners' comments?
I would comment that I did attend the Kansas Day festivities, if you can call them that, at Topeka last week. Administrator Philip Smith Haynes was also there with his expertise. He probably got more out of it than I did because as far as I was concerned, I'm glad there wasn't a cost to it because I didn't get anything out of it, to be quite blunt. I was hoping to see some of our legislators, which I didn't. They could have been there, I don't know, but I didn't see them, but I think I would have noticed if they were there. So and I think that's a function of the Kansas Association of Counties and also the League of Municipalities. They have separate meetings for a portion of the day, and then they go together and listen to a few comments from the governor and a couple of others, the Senate leader and the Senate minority leader also made comments, but it's kind of a political thing if you want to, depending on what you want out of it. Quite frankly, I came home just a little before the cocktail hour and meet and greet type thing, but at any rate, I went and didn't get much.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, I attended the chamber meeting. I didn't know I was a voting member of that. There were elections that took place, and I neglected to vote, so.
Well, I would check on that because when I was there, they told me that I didn't have a vote. Maybe they just didn't want me to vote and they do want you to vote. I don't know.
I'm sure that was the case.
You got a case of the funnies today, huh?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's good.
I assume you researched that, and I kind of question.
Linda did. I'll give her the credit.
Yeah, I question why they would want a commissioner voting at chamber business.
Well, we fund them. I mean, don't we?
We do fund.
To a certain amount, we do.
Yeah.
You're right. So
I don't remember if it was Mike Weiser or if it was Eric Brown, but they told me that because I would occasionally was at first was saying aye or nay or whatever. They said, well, you really don't have a vote. I said, okay. So from there on, I was quiet for a couple of years.
we'll research that further. But any other comments from commissioners?
Nope.
Any announcements? Seeing none and nothing else left, no other items to address, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion did carry. Thank you, everyone.